appears to have been getting better than the prior one. I think just their lineage of IP offerings make that evident. I also want to add that the quality and scope of these games...
It's a very good point that he's bringing up here, that if this game, if these developers were given a Riot title to work on, they're obviously not fucking morons.
While it might seem small for a company that's about to make an MMO, they have been increasing, improving, and getting better from one title to the next. Anyway, the past works of the studio side, let's talk about their upcoming project, the one that I am excited for. So last July, Airship Syndicate announced that they had partnered with Warframe developer Digital Extremes and would be making a AAA character-based online third-person action MMO. In that video, they touched on the fact
very, very fucking ambitious.
That they've been building up to making this for some time, saying we never would have tried this type of game right away.
Smart.
That's why we started with something like Battle Chasers, then we dabbled in multiplayer with Darksiders Genesis, and now we're going all the way with this new game. They went on to say, This is our biggest game yet. We're building a much larger world than we ever have before. We've been fans of many genres over the years, and we've sort of worn those influences on our sleeve. We've been fans of many genres over the years, and we've sort of worn those on our sleeves. One genre we've never really thought we could touch is MMOs. I don't think we could have tackled this type of online game without a partner like Digital Extremes. Now, they then did mention that they'll be taking...
I think that probably makes sense, right? I mean, like, MMOs take infinitely more money to make than almost any other game, besides apparently Genshin Impact.
A lot of inspiration from the likes of Warframe, and we have since learned that this will include the live service model, the monetization structure, and the post-launch support of adding new content and playable characters continuously as time goes on. I would consider this good news. Your opinion may vary depending on your thoughts on Warframe. By and large, I like the game. I've enjoyed and had fun every time I've gone back to it, and if they are following the Warframe model and have the support of Digital Extremes in developing and supporting this game, I think that there's a good chance that that leads to a recipe for success, especially considering the prior work of the studio, how good those games have been, and how well received they still are to this day.
So I also want to say that there have been a number of studios that have tried to make an MMO, and they had a lot of games that were really good before this, but they couldn't make an MMO because of how complex and how much they have going on.
So what is the game? Well, let's talk about it. It's called Wayfinder. It was officially unveiled this past December at the Game Awards with the release of a 1.5-minute long trailer. This was fairly action-packed, showing some open-world exploration with multiple players running around. There was plenty of combat. We saw these different characters fighting a variety of enemies. There was some dungeon gameplay with these groups engaged in boss fights. And then we saw some shots of the social hub, this large town area with a ton of players. Visually, the game's got quite a distinct look. There are some clear inspirations like Wildstar, Darksiders, and dare I say Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. I'm getting that vibe here, personally, myself. Now, while the trailer was light on actual details, we do know quite a lot about the game thanks to their website, Reddit AMAs, and some Discord chat.
Everything about this game so far looks good to me. I know obviously some people like a more realistic game. For me, I think I'm down to play either one. It doesn't really matter, but this looks good. It looks appealing.
Said prior, Wayfinder is being described as a character-based third-person action MMO. We'll be taking on and playing these unique characters, like Warframe in this aspect. Everyone will have their own distinct place.
Why the fuck is she not using the sword? What's she trying to prove? What is this? What is this shit?
Styles and abilities, and then we're bringing them out on adventures, completing quests, exploring dungeons in the world, fighting bosses, and a variety of other things, all for the sake of gathering crafting materials to make weapons, housing, augments, and more. In terms of the game's structure, they have said it's pretty much going to be exactly like Destiny in that it will consist of open world areas, dungeons within those, and then social spaces. So first there is the open world. These will be shared spaces.
I'm glad that they actually have it on the list to have social spaces. Social spaces are so important in MMOs and other types of games that are like MMOs, like Diablo Immortal. I think it was very beneficial for that game. I hope the Path of Exile 2 has these as well.
going to see other players running around, and they'll be doing a variety of open world stuff. Beyond fighting monsters and completing quests, these will include public events, world bosses, and then there will be landmarks, vistas, and other secrets to discover, which include the entrances to what are called lost zones. These are the game's version of instant dungeons. They're said to provide endless challenges, as they will be procedurally generated spaces with a variety of modifiers and affixes to keep things fresh. Using what is called the Gloom Dagger, we'll be able to customize our expeditions into lost zones with various mutators. These will dictate the enemies we encounter, various affixes and boosts that they have, as well as the crafting materials that we get as a reward. Outside of that, there are the...
That's fine. That seems good. I mean, whenever I hear that, it sounds cool, but you really have to see how this system plays out in the game itself to know if it's going to be a good one or not.
Towns or social hubs. Here you'll be chatting with NPCs to pick up quests and daily jobs. This is where you also get ready to set out for expeditions. You can craft weapons and gear, and there's going to be a system of customizable player housing, and this isn't just like hanging out and looking at the furniture and decorations you have. They've actually said this will also act as a second paper doll of sorts and upgrade and augment your character's power. So that is the general
So it's just like another, it's basically almost like talent points, kind of. Something similar to that? Sure.
Game structure. You've got open world areas to explore, pretty much everything you expect from open world spaces, other characters running around, other players, things you'll be doing, fighting, gathering resources, exploring, finding the entrances to those dungeons, and then those dungeons you'll go into. They are procedurally generated in layout, and they'll have all sorts of modifiers. You do all of this for farm for resources, for crafting, for player housing, and then you hang out in the social hub. That's the structure. That is the gameplay loop. Let's talk a little bit about these characters, which do appear to be modeled after Warframe's frames. So in Wayfinder, we'll be playing as distinct characters. These are each fully voice acted with their own unique abilities, play styles, and backstories. Currently, the game looks to be launching with 6 different Wayfinders. There is Wingrave, who excels at close combat. He specializes
I'm not a fan of the characters actually having specific names. I think that, like, how do you have, like, a character's name? Yeah, what is... Am I misunderstanding this? Because, like, what you do in an MMO is, like, you make your own character. It's not like you can have a bunch of other characters that are the same character running around.
and supporting allies, summoning shields of light, and healing his team. Silo mixes melee and range combat. He's got a host of tactical tools. He can distract foes with illusions, slow them with oil, and then set them ablaze. Nis is basically the rogue, a mobile shadow dancer, dashing between enemies, concealing herself with Cloak of Shadows, and then striking enemies down with spectral blades. Senja is a in-your-face...
I don't know why they... I'd also... The thing is, I've never had this problem before, where the Berserker class and, the big, the big beefy two-handed sword class is a girl. In every other fucking game, it's a guy. And it's like, now, I have to deal with the same problem that everybody else does in fucking Lost Ark. Because, it doesn't matter to me. I play Berserker. It's fucking great. But look at this.
Brawler on the front lines, blasting enemies with all sorts of lightning-infused skills. And then there's Kairos, a ranged glass cannon, can scatter foes with blast of raw energy, forms arcane shields, and crushes enemies with massive shockwaves.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say, I find it very off-putting that the characters actually have their own unique names, and they're not like warrior, mage, rogue, priest. Yeah, I find that extremely off-putting and weird. I know it's like, yeah, we're going to try to do something different. Sometimes there's a reason not to do that.
Is a sixth Wayfinder as well, although as of now that has yet to be revealed. So each of these characters will have 4 base unique skills as well as a signature weapon. However, they have said that there are 4 different weapon classes in the game, and that each character can equip any weapon they choose, and each weapon will also have unique abilities. So as an example, you might find one dual blade that causes the auto attacks of your character to slow enemies down, while later you could find another dual blade upgrade, which gives you access to a brand new dashing movement skill. Essentially, the weapons, beyond having their own attack patterns, will also be access to new abilities and things to alter up your playstyle. They say
that is very cool. What is to stop people from every single person has the dash with the slow on hit daggers and that's all they use? Because like in New World, that's kind of what it was. And if you would go into it, you would see, like, this is how it is in New World now, is that if you look and you're trying to find a group for an expedition, or like, yeah, an expedition, which is a dungeon in there, everybody is pretty much using great shield, great sword, and either great axe or great sword and hatchet. That's about it. Obviously, some people do things that are different. Of course they do. But the majority plays those two things. Who cares? I actually think that that's a good point. Who cares? But it matters how fast the metas are being changed. Because you're right, who cares is a great argument. But if the meta stays the same for 6 months, and everybody only uses one weapon for 6 months, or that's the best weapon for 6 months, that's it.
These abilities allow for further customizing of how you play and build your Wayfinder, and they will continue to expand on not only the weapon classes available, but also weapons within each class in future updates. Although the base characters are very distinct, there is also any customization. You can visually customize your Wayfinder to make one trade another one, but then also how you play that character will be adjusted by the weapons you use, the various mods that you apply, as well as a system of talent and skill trees. On top of that, they've said that you can switch between characters at will. So yes, this system does seem very akin to what Warframe does with their frames. I guess another example would be what Firefall did with their frames as well. These are essentially their own confined classes, and you can swap between them. They say at will. I don't know if that means like in the middle of combat or if you're going into town to swap your Wayfinder, but you'll be...
I would assume it's probably in town, but who knows?
Swapping these on a regular basis. You're not just like, I'm not just making a Wingrave and only playing as Wingrave until another character.
That's what I'll do.
Swap between the Wayfinders that exist, although there will be some sort of unlocking similar to Warframe as well, where there will be like a rotation of free Wayfinders than ones you have to unlock, which I'll get those details in just a moment. Some more information here from an FAQ on their website. In terms of playing solo, they say that Wayfinder is a social game at heart, but it also features a story quest, side objectives, and other stories that can be experienced solo. However,
that is, I think, by the way, like this answer here is the best answer that an MMO can give. Well, it's a solo game at heart. There are a lot of things you can do solo. However, the hardest content requires friends. I do think that having solo content, I know this sounds weird and counterintuitive, but I think having solo content that is very challenging for an MMO is extremely good. Whether it's fucking, Necromancer in Final Fantasy XIV, what is Lost Ark content? Because it actually doesn't really have that much. Because WoW obviously has Mage Tower, that's the best example. Like, these are really important things for MMOs to have. That's why I hope that this isn't just like a blanket, no hard content solo. But overall, I think this is probably the best answer.
However, a lot of the game's more challenging content will require you to play groups. In terms of what business model they will be doing and what they will be selling, they are basically modeling and going off of what Warframe is. They say with the help of Digital Extremes, we will fully embrace Warframe's free and fair monetization. Everything we will be selling in the game will be earnable via play. Now, not everybody loves this system in particular.
No, I don't think so. I think it depends on what's earnable. So, like, for example, if you can buy something that saves you 2 hours of farming, like the same as you can buy, like, Una's Task instant completion credits in Lost Ark, then I think that's bad. However, if you're able to just buy different cosmetic things and they don't affect gameplay, I don't think that's as bad. In my opinion, pay for convenience and pay to win are about the same thing. Because paying for convenience allows you to focus on other things, which allows you to be infinitely more efficient than if you play PvP, allowing you to progress faster, thus us winning faster. Like, I think that's
I know Warframe gets slammed very often for how grindy it is without paying. You've got like basically long craft times and various things in the game, weapons and stuff like that. I personally, in the nice sort of more casual approach to the game, like revisiting Warframe every year or every other year. Every time I've gone back, I've never felt like I hit a wall that was so offensive that really bothered me. I usually jump back in, play for a few days, a couple of weeks, enjoy my time, and then leave. But I do appreciate that it is likely that if this is going to be a game you're going to be playing consistently, expect there to be some grind in there, because it is a free-to-play game. They will be going off of the model. So that's
this is just how every game is going to be now. I think that maybe an exception to this would be Ashes of Creation, but I don't think we're going to see a lot more subscription-based MMOs. I don't think we're going to be seeing a lot more MMO-based games that either are free or just have a launch price, because I think the subscription kills games.
Some information from the
already
FAQ, but there was
some.
also a Reddit AMA that had a ton of questions they answered that went into some extreme detail about various systems, aspects, the structure of the game, type of content, customization, progression, all of that. I want to touch on some of the bigger things. First up, we were asked, besides the weapon that you're using, what will mechanically separate my character from someone who's in the same one? Their response was, there are a few things that will make you stand out from, say, another Wingrave who's also using a two-hander. First, which two-hander am I using, as each of them will come with a unique ability, different stat breakdowns, different echo socket alignments. Two, what echoes do I have socketed? So they say depending on what socket you have, is going to have different stats. Some echoes have more than just stats. And then do I specialize my Wingrave into break power so I can open up teammates? Or maybe I've got a couple of echoes that I can change wisely completely, like an echo that gives me a buff when I double jump with a cooldown paired with another one that sends out a shockwave or an air slam. Really cool different combinations of skills that are not just coming from the base skills that your character has. Also, what ability upgrades did you choose? Each ability can be upgraded as you level, and you won't get enough points to upgrade them all. They'll all provide benefits outside of just stats that can change up how you play. And then there are weapon masteries and talents. There are consumables, which will mix things up. Then there are also accessories that you will equip, which add further customization and differentiation. And I am really happy to see all of this.
Sounds impossible to balance. It doesn't matter. As long as they constantly balance it, it doesn't make a difference if it's not balanced well. But I do think that a balanced game is fundamental for a game to be balanced. Because whenever you have an unbalanced game, you have a game that has no choices. Because whenever one ability or one weapon or one gameplay type is just better than everything else, then guess what? No other decision you make matters, because you never want to play anything besides that if you want to be competitive. So having unbalances or imbalances and like really overperforming or underperforming items actually takes away choices, and it makes the game worse.
When I first heard that we've got these wayfinders and they have 4 unique abilities plus the weapon that you used that have an ability, I was like, okay, so are we just talking like 5 skills and the only customizable one is the weapon that you're using? No, clearly there is a lot more depth here between changing the skills, the weapons and their differentiating skills, the echoes that are within that, and various modifiers and additional things that you can add. Sounds like a lot of fucking top of that, it seems like there is more customization and character building and progression than I was led to believe, which is good to hear. I got the ask what the end game would consist of, and they said that they plan to have raids and world bosses, which will challenge the toughest wayfinders. We also plan to have content drops that will be adding new zones, those bosses, weapons, and characters. Heroic teams will be unlocked in game, allowing you to replay older content at the highest difficulty. Pretty common in MMOs, happy to see it here. Endgame will also consist of the customization of artifacts to hunt down to fill up your houses and the neighborhoods. We're going to have a neighborhood system where you're in a neighborhood like in town with other people.
That's cool.
And then they said one key element too is really just listening to responding and adjusting accordingly, which then
I think that's a pretty good foundation for in-game content.
to kind of what they're planning for content updates. They were asked, besides new heroes, how else do you plan to introduce new content to the game? Their response was, we are approaching every season as a contained chapter that works to tell a larger ongoing story of the game. What this allows us to do is introduce new locations, new bosses and enemies, as well as revitalize older areas with new mechanics and revelations, and every season will give them the opportunity to add new resources, weapons, relics to craft, new creature echoes to loot and equip into new meta builds, so much more they have planned than just new characters. So this game is clearly going the regular old live service route of seasonal updates, adding content throughout those seasons. Of course, this
Pretty much every game does this. It's not really that big of a surprise. I think what will really separate this game or not is based off of how this gameplay works, what the gameplay loop is, if it's fun to play, etc. That's about it.
all hinges on whether or not the game is popular and maintains a player base. The more popular it is, the more likely it is to get continual seasons with larger updates. That is something we will just have to wait to see how it plays out. They were asked to give a rough estimate of how much of the game is open world versus instance. The response was, it's hard to estimate, but both are very important to the game. Open world areas have a lot of group activities like events and world bosses. Players can spend a lot of time there exploring, looking for secrets, or seeing what new things have cropped up every day and week. And then the dungeons, while not as big as the open world, will be very replayable, especially with the mutators. In many ways, it'll be up to each player's preference of what they're spending most of their time doing. They were asked how we will be unlocking characters and if it would be similar to Warframe. They responded,
there are a lot of games that have this, where it's like an in-game replayable dungeon system that has a few affixes that are applied to the NPCs that change the weekly content. Like, yeah, I've seen this. I mean, this is in New World. It's in WoW. I don't know what Final Fantasy does with their stuff. It was in Tower of Fantasy. It was in fucking... Let me think of a couple others. I think those are the ones that at least come out. Yeah, like maybe Path of Exile. PoE is kind of like that in a way. Yeah.
Saying characters will be obtainable via crafting as well as with outright purchases. We will have no loot boxes or gacha to get characters, as we are fully embracing Warframe's model. We also will be
having no loot boxes or gacha to get characters is kind of an exclusionary statement. Doesn't mean that they're not going to have loot boxes or gacha for other things as well. So it's like, whenever I hear that, and it's like, oh, well, we're not going to have loot boxes for characters, that means that there's probably going to be loot boxes for something else. It depends on what that is and how bad it is.
Introducing a system in which Wayfinders can unlock additional powers through an
none.
awakening.
Well,
this will increase their max level, their
I think that's probably the best way to look
echo
at it.
capacity, echo slots. So it's like an enhanced version of the base characters. This all, again, feels very, very similar to what Warframe is. This is like a fantasy take on Warframe, which is also what Soulframe is supposed to be, but it's made by a different company, and it's going to have a different visual setup and different whatever. It's a different game. This is not Soulframe, but it's also kind of like Soulframe. Considering the game will be free to play, I am totally fine with them having the system of some free Wayfinders, and then you can either grind to unlock or pay to unlock additional.
Yeah, I am too. It's not good, but if you're going to have a free game, you need to make money somehow. That's just the way that all of these games work. That's just how it is.
Wayfinders, as long as the system seems fair and the grinding doesn't seem too egregious enough to the point where you might want to spend some money to unlock one here and there. Totally reasonable way to do a free-to-play loot grindy game. I do, really. And then there were some other questions. There was actually a lot of other questions. This AMA was huge, but things like, are there going to be guilds? Their response was they're going to have some sort of guild system, and they might even have some sort of guild housing. There will be jumping puzzles out in the open world or something like that. They're going to have all sorts of high rare systems. You know, it's a loot game, so there's color rarity tiers, and then there will be like super ultra rares that you can occasionally find. As I mentioned at the top, this was a pretty pleasant surprise. Now, I happened to miss this announcement at the Game Awards. I was really busy at the time. I didn't want...
I was very excited about this whenever I first heard of this game, and so I hope good things come out of this.
watch it live, and I put out my video of the upcoming 2023 MMOs, and this one was missing because I frankly at the time just didn't know about it. A lot of people asked me, hey, what about Wayfinder? Have you seen Wayfinder? I hadn't. Now I have. I've learned a lot, and it looks and sounds pretty cool. I like the visual style, although I do prefer the open world seamless MMO experience. I'm totally cool with a shared world game, especially considering this has action combat. Having the smaller play spaces means you can have more real action combat without dealing with latency issues. We've talked about this in a lot of other videos,
Yeah, sure.
but a lot of these big open world games, when they try to do action combat, like true action combat, like single player, think God of War style, for example, a lot of times that experience ends up suffering when you have a lot of people.
It's just laggy. I mean, like, it's either laggy fundamentally, or it's laggy whenever there's a handful of people around.
In a large open space. So going with a game that's not just full-on open massive seamless world. It's a different type of MMO. It's that shared world MMO, and I totally think there's a space for that, whatever my general preferences for the genre may be. Whatever. Either way, this looks and sounds cool. I'm looking forward to it.
This looks good.
When can we play? Well, Wayfinder, like I said, is going to be free to play, and they are scheduling currently to enter Steam Early Access in the spring of 2023. Between now and then, they've got a couple of playtests scheduled. There's actually be one this month in January, playtest number 2. The first one happened in December after the reveal of the game. And then sometime in February or March, it looks like they will be doing a closed beta, and they said here that they will be inviting a number of players to check out the world, although these early tests are under strict NDA. Eventually, down the road, they will be lifting the NDA for streaming and recording, but right...
Yeah, I'm going to wait until the game is out of NDA to play it. I don't want to play the game under NDA just because I want my first impressions of the game. I want you guys to see that.
Right now, at least the test that's coming in January is under NDA as well, so don't expect to be seeing or hearing a lot about the game. And if you do, it's because someone's about to get banned from the test. And then in the spring 2023, vague, but you know, maybe April, May-ish, they will be entering early access, first coming to PC and PlayStation consoles. And then the full release is supposed to be happening in late 2023, at which point it will be coming to all consoles as well as PC. This looks cool. I am looking forward to seeing and learning more.
I hope I don't have to play this on console. I'm not a fan of having to play something on console. I only really did with Demon's Souls, that's about it, and Bloodborne, so hopefully that doesn't happen.
I'm just excited. This was a real pleasant surprise. Looks awesome. Happy.
I feel like also like a lot of the MMO player base is very PC heavy.
Fairly confident because of the company making it and their support from Digital Extremes. I think that's a good marriage of groups that could potentially make something really awesome. I'm excited for it. Expect to hear more and see more coverage from me on Wayfinder. Okay. That does it for me today, though. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the vid. I'll see you later.
That was a good video. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm glad that he made this video. Give me 1 second. I'll go ahead and I'll pause this and talk about it a little bit. But yes, I am very, very excited about this. I think it looks good. The combat looks interesting. The art style is good. Not having any explicit pay to win is a nice change of pace, okay? Very nice change of pace. So yeah, I'm gonna play the game. I'm gonna see what it's like. And if it sucks dick, that's fine. I'll quit. But I'll try it out and see what it's like. I think that's the best way for me to do it. Art style is kind of meh, but combat does look good. That's what really matters more than anything, man, is combat and making sure that people that are playing the game have something to do. And that is the one thing that MMOs fuck up on. They either fuck up on combat or content. So if they can get those two things down, then the game will be fun. And also having the shared spaces. I'm curious to see what like these housing and neighborhood systems are going to look like. I hope that they try to model it after Final Fantasy, because that's one of the better things about the game. As someone with 9K hours in Warframe, I'm skeptical that this game will actually release. I don't know, man. I feel like they actually have shown a lot of different things in this game. Like, if you look at the amount of demos, like, they're showing dungeons, open world content, boss battles. Like, they're really showing a lot of stuff with this. Maybe I'm crazy, but I think so. But this is a Force Gaming video. Make sure to give it a like. I think this is very well put together, and I've actually wanted to talk more about this game myself. There was a beta. It's definitely near complete and coming. Yeah, exactly. Let me see here. Game looks great and I love the art style. Big turnoff for me is not being able to create my own character. I think, yeah, that is probably the biggest weird thing to me about this game, is the fact that you have to play these like preset characters that already have a name. That to me is so fucking weird. I'm not a fan of it. Let me see here. Being forced into a hero system is a bit unfortunate. Yeah. And I hopefully that they kind of scale that back. I don't really know why they have to do that. But, I mean, I think with an MMO, it's very much like your character's identity is you, and it's not the same as, like, League of Legends or, I don't know, like, any other MMO. So, or a single-player game. So I do hope that they're able to pull that back. World of Warcraft will be dead in 5 years. Here's why. All right, let's find out. 5 years, more like 2. Yeah, true, man. This shit is done. Oh, it's over.
They're doing wrong is just simply not adapting to the audience. During WoW's lifetime, as different genres have become more popular, Blizzard have not implemented these popular genres into their own game. Even if
I agree with that. I actually think that they should have a they should have like Fortnite and WoW. That would be really cool.
It's just like a little essence of these popular genres. Instead, we've got new features like pet battles, scenarios, island expeditions.
I don't know. I feel like the pet battles, scenarios, and island expeditions, islands were only bad because you had to do them. The other two, people generally like them, or they don't participate in them.
Alright guys, today I'm going to talk about why I think World of Warcraft is going to be dead in 5 years. Now,
Wow.
This isn't clickbait or anything. People have actually been saying
This isn't clickbait or anything. All right, let's find out why.
World of Warcraft has already been dead for years now. So we're going to be analysing.
I love how any screenshot that anyone has of a YouTube thing of like WoW is dead, there's every single one of them has a clip of one of my streams. WoW is dead again, LOL, lowest ever, me smiling, it's Belluor.
For years now. So we're going to be analysing why people say that. And why can we all agree that World of Warcraft definitely isn't the absolute titan of the gaming industry anymore.
I mean, if you put World of Warcraft and Warcraft Classic together, 1.1 and then 5 basically, you would obviously have 1.6. Putting it ahead of Final Fantasy, it would be number 1. So, like, I don't know, that's one thing I would say. Also, like, any of these websites, by the way, are like, there's no way that they obtain this data that has any sort of, like, legitimacy to it whatsoever. Yeah, all of these informational websites are just complete garbage.
One of the reasons World of Warcraft is simply adapted to the audience. When I say the audience, I mean the population of the planet who spend time playing video games. Okay. Their tastes have changed. WoW was not adapted to that change in taste.
I think it has. I think that WoW has adapted a lot, and I think examples of WoW adapting is things like, you know, them adding Group Finder, Dungeon Finder, War Mode, like giving people other ways like Mythic Plus, like having different rating sizes. Yeah, it's adapted a lot.
Let's understand why WoW is of its we have to analyse the actual.
Okay, so we have 2015, where it's right here, 2016, and do you want to know why there's an asterisk next to every single one of these? Is because the person who made this graph there's literally, like, you're gonna make an argument that it didn't go up at all, for Shadowlands, or sorry, for BFA? Absolutely not. It didn't even go up at all for Shadowlands? Absolutely not. Yeah, this is all an abstract, because it's an extrapolation of data. It's crazy how people... I really think they need to start teaching, instead of Algebra 2, they need to start teaching statistics. Please start teaching statistics in school.
WoW isn't the titan of the industry anymore. We have to analyze the actual titans of the industry, and I think it boils down to 3 different online game genres. The MOBA, the Battle Royale, and kind of the survival game. So MOBA...
I would agree with that, but I also think that there's like a massive genre of games that are just phone games. Like, phone games are bigger than all of these. Like, things like Clash of Clans, stuff like that, auto battling. These are you just don't see them at all. And I think this is kind of the point that I'm making is, like, you're not seeing those because you're only thinking about this contextualized around, like, PC gaming.
There's stuff like Dota, Fortnite, and Apex, survival games, Valorant.
Yeah.
There's also objective-based shooters in there, like CSGO, Valorant, and Call of Duty.
CSGO, Valorant, I mean, like, I think shooters, really Valorant is the, I think Valorant did recognize a lot of the CSGO audience, and I do think that new people coming into the scene, like, if you're 13, are you going to start playing CSGO, or are you going to start playing Valorant? I think that most 13-year-olds are going to decide to play Valorant. Now, I have no data on this, I don't know this, but I'm just guessing.
Channel. Out. Now these genres are passing warrior blood must because these other games have adapted to the changing interests and tastes of the audience of
Slovensko, I am assuming this is probably some country in Europe. This is probably not worldwide, is it? Slovenia, yeah, it's not worldwide. Yeah, so was World of Warcraft even available in Slovenia whenever it came out? I have no idea. It would make sense that it was extremely low because it probably wasn't available in that country, or it wasn't very popular in that country. And I would assume that people like it. It could also be a technical country, but like I'm just saying, like, using a graph like this and then saying, like, oh, well, because it was low in this one country, like, this is not a very good argument. You should have done worldwide.
Despite its very it is being inside a huge online world from.
This was nuts, bro.
That's one thing that MMOs have that other games don't have.
So,
now, the problem with MMOs is they require a huge budget and a lot of graft to make in the first place, and to keep new content being released for that game.
Oh yeah, let me go back and look at this again. MMORPG touched $63 million to develop. We include the cost of its development and marketing. It adds up to over $200 million. Seems like a lot. World of Warcraft, now one of the most profitable games in the world, grossing over $9 billion. Yeah, I mean, of course, WoW makes a lot of money. That's a lot of WoW tokens.
And to keep new content being released for that game.
Yeah, of course.
When new MMOs are released on the most part, they just don't have enough stuff to do to keep players playing the game. They always feel like they're released early without
I think New World has improved on this a lot, and nowadays I think New World is doing a much better job retaining players. You can see this if you just look it up on Steam charts. Let's see here, New World, there it is, charts as well. Like, this is a massively successful graph. Like, I would consider this a W graph. Abso-fucking-lutely. And it's retained a lot of these players. Obviously, this was whenever the big event happens. And even now, with Dragonflight out, etc., it is at a higher player base now than it has been since, I guess, February of last year. So it's been tremendously improved. And I think that also, like other games like Lost Ark, for example, let me see if I can pull it up right here. Lost Ark has dozens of people, I'm sure, dozens of real people, I'm sure, that are playing the game. I mean, I would argue that there probably could even be yeah, I think that it's quite possible that there could be hundreds of people. That's incredible. Wow. Realistically, I assume that number is probably somewhere around 100 to 100. I would not be surprised if 2/3 of the population of Lost Ark right now are bots.
And this is the only weakness. It requires new content. A lot of new content. Power.
Obviously. Well, anyway, that's not really true. You see, like, you have fresh servers that come out all the time, and that's new content. I think a great example of this, again, is New World. So if you look at the New World graph right here, whenever the content actually came out, it was right about here. It was, I think, right here in September, or like something like this. And the content didn't really come out, and people didn't really come back to the game until they did like the big return to a true event. And then it got a lot of people coming back playing fresh servers, which fundamentally are not new content, they're just fresh servers. And that's what retained even more people than the new content did. It's dying again? Well, that's the way every game goes. Like every single game, it doesn't matter if it's Final Fantasy, Fortnite, every game is like this. Like this, and like every single time, this is new content, this is new content, and this is the release. Yeah, that's the way it works every time. Every game works this way.
Regularly, players and development. This, for instance, could be more regular.
Put these foolish ambitions to rest.
Industry absolute truckloads, and that's replayability. League of Legends and Valorant, for instance, have
World of Warcraft doesn't have replayability. I would disagree with that. I think that World of Warcraft does have a lot of replayability. Like, for example, people go back and they do... How can you say World of Warcraft doesn't have replayability whenever Classic WoW was the biggest game in the world in 2019? How can you say WoW doesn't have replayability whenever Classic Wrath was more popular on social media than Dragonflight was? Like, it's not true. WoW has a tremendous amount of replayability. People go and they do the same 8 dungeons of WoW and Mythic Plus for 2 years. And even I think that is a problem. Yeah, WoW has more replayability than any other game. And I actually would argue that WoW needs more replayability even, because he is partially right. Final Fantasy has better replayability of raids. WoW has better replayability of dungeons. And I would love to see old raids in WoW have better replayability.
Same replayability with much less development time required.
And also, I think this has been a massive improvement of Alt and Dragonflight 2.
People can play the same League of Legends map. It's changed a little bit, but more or less it is the same. It also went over to maintain replayability to release new champions.
These foolish ambitions to rest.
Yes.
Much less effort required than making an entire new raid every few months or a new dungeon. Because doing the same PvE raid for 6 months on end just simply isn't fun, and it gets boring, and it's why people quit retail World of Warcraft. It's why there was a huge nosedive of players after Shadowlands, and let's be honest, pretty much every single expansion will probably happen very soon.
This is like, just like the total. I don't know where this graph is coming from or anything like this. This is the dumbest graph I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, all of these numbers, because these are all subscriber numbers, you know what I mean? Because, like, remember how it was down by, like, 2.9 million? So, like, this is very clearly, like, these numbers are subscribers. To say that, like, Burning Crusade Classic only had, like, 800,000 people subscribed to the game, like, how do you judge this? Like, these are literally just people that invented numbers. And also, like, how are these numbers here not automatically, like, how do you have a graph like this, and at the same time, you also have a graph, where's the other one, where he showed, like, each yearly, fuck, let me see if I can find it. Damn, I don't know where it is, I'd have to click through the whole video. But you saw how he had the graph with, like, a massive downward slope. So how can you have two graphs that are showing the subscriber behavior in World of Warcraft, and the graphs are conflicting? It's because they're both wrong. The best case scenario, one of them is right. Worst case scenario, both of them are wrong. This graph is so inaccurate that Microsoft already brought it. Yeah, it's so inaccurate, Blizzard already put it in the game. There you go. It just doesn't make sense.
For Dragonflight, every MMO has the same problem, a huge nosedive in the player base after launch, and that's an issue because you want to maintain a solid player base.
PoE is not an MMO, but yeah, this is the same, what this guy is saying, like, this is not an MMO problem, this is a problem with every single game. Every single game that's not a competitive PvP game has this exact problem, and I bet Fortnite has this problem too, because a lot of these games probably don't share their updates. Like if you look at Elden Ring, even Elden Ring, most popular game, game of the year. Yes, obviously it's going up now, but like, look, it went down. Like, everything does this. You can only look at Steam charts and like use them as useful data if you understand how to interpret the data.
Long term, other titles are due to optimizing the replayability of their games, and they adapt with the audience. I think Fortnite does this better than any other game.
I will agree with this part. I think Fortnite is probably the best example of a game that has adapted and changed over the years and gotten better and retained an audience. Fortnite is an amazing fucking game, and I think it's super fun. I've played a lot of Fortnite over the years.
Adding new features to keep players entertained.
But I think this is also an issue if you want to talk about like other BRs. Apex Legends had this problem for a while. Apparently now they're doing a better job with it, with like having to get Warzone had this problem tremendously. PUBG had this problem for years. And I'm trying to think, is there another BR that I'm not thinking of that's like super I'm not sure. But yeah, this is a problem with every single game. It has nothing to do with like, it's not a unique thing with MMOs or with WoW.
This gets us to the underlying problem. Don't have this element of insanely well, they kind of do, but only do for a few months before the whole of the latest rating.
I think that if you look at it through the context of raid tiers being, this is what he says about PvP here.
But you could argue that there's more ability being brought back.
You could make that argument.
Successes of other games like League, CSGO, and Call of Duty.
That's totally true. He's totally right about that. Is that World of Warcraft will never have the same level of replayability that CSGO or Valorant have. The reason why is that the barrier of entry to playing different things in PvPs is much higher than the barrier of entry to playing different champions in Valorant. And it's like, if I want to play a new champions in Valorant, I actually meant like, if you want to use your gun, if you want to use a sniper, if you want to play a shotgun in PUBG or something stupid like that, you can immediately go and do that. But in WoW, there's so much prep time that you have to invest into being able to play a new character, then it just takes too long. It's the same as like Overwatch, for example. Like, the reason why Overwatch has a lot of replayability for me, like if I had to level up Roadhog to level 100 in order to play him in ranked and PvP, that would not be fun. I had to like go grind out like random robots and kill random robots out in the world. That would suck. And also, I think that replayability, when you look at replayability in an MMO in the context of current level end-game content, I think that you're only looking at it in a small window. Trixidix, thank you very much for the 20 gifted subs. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So I'm not trying to act like you know. I know so much better than probably anybody else here because I played these games all day. I make videos about them. That's why people watch my videos, is because I know this better than fucking anybody else. So yes, I'm not gonna go and pretend like I don't know what I'm talking about. I absolutely do. The fact is that a lot of these games, there is a lot of different metrics that people use for replayability. Final Fantasy has massive replayability because of the FC system and the guild hall system. Is that in-game content? No, it's not. But it's MMO content. And MMO content, the reason why this comparison is wrong is because what he's really doing is he's comparing all of League of Legends to part of World of Warcraft and part of Apex. Whereas there are different value propositions that every type of game provides. And a lot of the other value propositions that World of Warcraft and MMOs provide do not exist on the same spectrum as CSGO or League of Legends.
So MMOs and WoW end up doing something wrong, otherwise they'll be something like But what I think is wrong is just adapting to the audience. During WoW's lifetime, as different genres have become more popular, Blizzard have not implemented popular genres into their own game.
I actually agree with this to an extent. I think that Blizzard should have made a VR or a Battle Royale version of WoW. I think it could have been added into the game with relatively no friction, and it would have been a universal improvement. How? It's simple. You just have people start new characters. You have people start new characters in one zone, kill different mobs. It's kind of like Warcraft 3, and everybody's their own champion. And then, you know, like the circle gets smaller, and then that's it. And guess what? If it doesn't work, then that's fine. I do think they should have tried it, though.
Even if it's just like a little essence of these popular genres. Instead, we've got new features like pet battles, scenarios.
I mean, new features. I mean, these are things that came out in like 2012. Like, that's whenever Mists of Pandaria came out. I mean, these have been in the game for a long time. And also, they got rid of island expeditions. I mean, scenarios are not in the game anymore. They are, but they've been kind of... But it's kind of like what they said whenever they had that developer interview and they were talking about how things evolved and like how their systems evolved. That's kind of what happened.
Expeditions. Torghast, solo dungeon, the antithesis of now with Dragonfly, we have
I don't think that Torghast is bad. I don't like the idea that MMOs, like, Torghast is the antithesis of what an MMO should be. I think that's silly. I really don't like this mindset that a lot of like older MMO players have, that all MMO content is focused or it shouldn't be in the game. It's like so narrow, and like if you want to talk about not being able to adapt to what users want, and then you're holding on to antiquated ideals for a genre that's been made irrelevant in the state that it used to exist in, it's just not a very good argument.
Margit the Fell Omen is the first mandatory boss you'll encounter in Elden Ring. You'll find his fog gate inside the Castle Ward Tunnel, which begins at the top of Stormhill, the windswept lands northeast of the starting area called Limgrave. The hammer-wielding steward is old but quick on his feet and poses a more significant threat to slower melee-focused players, especially those of a lower level. If you're still trying to figure out how to beat Margit the Fell Omen, we've got you covered. In this Elden Ring boss guide, we'll show you how to find a unique item to make the fight much more effortless. I don't recommend combating Margit until you've leveled up your primary weapon at least 2 times. Additionally, make sure to call upon Sorcerer Roger before entering the fight. His golden summoning sign lies on the right side floor of the Fog Gate. However, if you need a more considerable advantage, you're going to have to unlock Margit's Shackle, a reusable item you can trigger twice during the boss's first phase. This method also prevents Margit from damaging Roger or your spirit summons too early in the duel, ensuring you have additional damage throughout the second phase of the boss fight. You can buy Margit's Shackle from an optional merchant named Patches for 5,000 runes, but only after you fight and spare him inside Murkwater Cave. To find Murkwater Cave, head up the ravine beginning at the northeastern boundary of Aggieva Lake. Beware the beast guarding the shallow waters. After beating the group of skeletons beneath the bridge, continue up the river and prepare to duel Bloody Finger Daragus, an invading NPC who inflicts a potent bleed effect with his dual daggers. Carefully dodge Narajus' attacks until Bloody Finger Hunter Yura joins the fray and offers assistance, or coat your greatsword in fire grease and unleash your Ash of War on him like I did. After defeating Narajus, look towards the riverbank for the entrance to Murkwater Cave marked by a torch. Once inside, rest at the site of Lost Grace and defeat the thieves in the next chamber. The cave interior splits into 2 passages. Take the right path and you'll find the golden fall gate signifying the battle with Patches. And hesitate to enter the boss. Traverse the mist and open the treasure chest next to the campfire. Patches will announce himself from higher up in the cavern before jumping down to begin the fight. Do not use your spirit summons because you'll need to stop attacking Patches halfway through. At roughly half health, Patches will surrender and ask for mercy. After forgiving him, the now friendly NPC will tell you to visit his new item shop later. Run back to the site of grace at the cave entrance, rest, and return to Patches' chamber. The mischievous merchant will now sell you several valuable goods, but most importantly, Margit's Shackle. After heading back to Castle Ward Tunnel, summon Sorcerer Rogier to your aid, traverse the mist, and begin the battle with Stormveil's Vexing Steward. This time, save your spirit summons for later. Margit usually starts throwing 2 glowing daggers, simply dodge roll out of the way. If he focuses on you, be mindful of the quick swings he uses in rapid succession. Margit briefly catches his breath after his flurry of attacks. This is the moment to activate Margit's Shackle. A seal of holy light will stun Margit, grounding and leaving him open for a flurry of attacks. Stack enough damage during this lockdown and you'll stagger the boss, creating a window for an easy critical hit. Remember, you can use Margit's Shackle twice before the second boss phase, so repeat the lockdown process once more. At 60% health, Margit will pull out his holy powered Kirkhammer, beginning the second section of the fight. As he starts speaking to you again, you'll have time to summon your spirit companions. I'd recommend using the Lone Wolf Ashes or Godric Soldiers, which you can find in the Jellyfish-filled cemetery west of Stormhill. You won't have much time in between Margit's 4 combo attacks, so focus on dodging and healing until he slams his staff or hammer into the ground. Then punish him. Upon victory, you'll receive...
Hello everyone, Johnny Hurricane here from GamersHeroes.com, and today we're going to go over how to summon your spirit allies in Elden Ring, because it's a little bit trickier than it should be. Let's get started. First thing you need to do is find the witch at the Church of Ela. She pops up right after you get your horse and mount, like after you, your horse and mount, after you get your horse and you can level up. And then you go around and do a little bit more, warp back to the church here, and you'll see this witch lady, and you talk to her, and she will eventually ask if you can ride Torrent, and you say yes. And she gives you the spirit calling bell and the ashes. The bell is required to summon spirits, so without it, like I know some of you have started with it, some of you have also probably done some dungeons and found them, and you're like, bro, what the hell, I can't do this. You need to do this part, so you need to come back here. Second rub, look on the left of the screen, you see that little white symbol, the white gate symbol? That has to be up, or you cannot summon. So this is not like typical co-op. You're not going to have these guys roaming around with you constantly. That symbol's generally only around strong enemies, bosses, sometimes in parts of dungeons, but it's not common. Then the other thing, I think if you have your symbol down, like, hey, I'm looking for an ally, I don't think you can summon them. You can definitely not summon them when you're in co-op, but even as you're looking, I don't think you can summon either. And by the way, this guy hits hard, so I'm level 40 something. He just one-shot me. Anyways, yeah, that's how you summon your ashes. You got to get to the witch, which is pretty early on, and then you have to have that little white symbol on the left, which again is generally only around bosses and harder enemies. So if you liked what you saw, got what you needed, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys. And you say yes, and she gives you the spirit calling bell and the ashes. The bell is required to summon spirits, so without it, like I know some of you have started with it, some of you have also probably done some dungeons and found them, and you're like, bro, what the hell, I can't do this. You need to do this part, so you need to come back here. Second rub, look on the left of the screen, you see that little white symbol, the white gate symbol? That has to be up, or you cannot summon. So this is not like typical co-op. You're not going to have these guys roaming around with you constantly. That symbol's generally only around strong enemies, bosses, sometimes in parts of dungeons, but it's not common. Then the other thing, I think if you have your symbol down, like, hey, I'm looking for an...
What's going on, we gamers? Today I'm going to be going over a little bit on how you can use your summons. So if you're struggling to use them, a little bit confused, then stay tuned. That's coming up next. Latest and greatest content, hints, tips, guides and builds, and just some fun gameplay and reviews of upcoming games as well. But for today, if you're trying to get those summons and you just can't work out what's going on, or maybe you have some but they just don't activate, then this is what you'll need to do. Now, a little ways into the game, just after you emerge from the very dank of the most important in the game, or to summon, then after that, you Ella waypoint. And I'm pretty sure at that time, she then goes on to ask you, and then she'll to you. What she'll then chuck you will be the spirit calling bell, which is essential for summoning. And then whenever you want to call upon them, you're just going to have to press the X button, and then you're going to use the FP in order to summon them. To your items, in the exact same slot as where you use your flasks and such, she's going to give you the Lone Wolf summons. From here you'll be able to equip it to your items, in the exact same slot as where you use your flasks and such. And then whenever you want to call upon them, you're just going to have to press the X button, and then you're going to use the FP in order to summon them. Now that's all well and good, but some of you may have actually missed that, because I believe if you progress too far in the story, they can actually become an NPC that disappears and you can't find her there. If you want to try by going back and forth a couple of times, it is advised, but ultimately if money's not an option, all you're going to do if you're a little bit further in the game, nice and easy, you're just going to bop back to your Table of Lost Grace, back at Round Table Hold.
blood must truly run in thy veins. Put these foolish ambitions to rest. blood must truly run in thy veins. smoldering with thy meager flame. Cower in fear of the night. The hands of the fell omen shall brook thee no quarter. come over here, would you? You're tarnished, aren't you? I would advise against taking the main gate into the castle. It's tightly guarded by hardened old hands. Oh, try the opening right here. The guards don't know about it. You'll breach the castle undetected. Yes, that's the spirit. You're just the kind of tarnished that I like. I pray for your success. Use that opening to breach the guard. You'll slip. Yes, that's the spirit. You're just the